optimize there. We're like 30 seconds out.
We're live.
Thanks for joining us today. Whoa. Sorry about that. Thanks for joining us today for MasterCoaches Wednesday Weekly Buzz in our after show Buzz Reaction. I'm Ruth Nelson, joined with Hall of Famers Mick Haley, Bob Bertucci, and Brian Gemolero, bringing you the most current issues and trends in volleyball. Our weekly news show shows our leaders in our sport provide their perspective on questions that are asked along with the discussion on topics that are current and ones that are affecting all of us. Our news flash. Coaching Insider will be creating MasterCoaches video coaching clips from this past weekend at Abilene Youth Sports Authority, and we'll hear more about the clinic on our Buzz Reaction today. Junior Volleyball Association has announced their newest event coming in February, the JVA Charm City Challenge for girls ages 12 and 18 at the Baltimore Convention Center, which is slated to be one of the most competitive events to hit the East Coast. Volleyball Nations League standings are USA, Turkey, Brazil, Netherlands, and Japan for women, and Poland, Brazil, France, Russia, and Slovenia for men. Want to make a difference? Please remember to renew your AVCA membership. This one organization that represents all coaches at all levels when lobbying at the changes that are needed in our sport. You can make a difference by registering at avca.org. Whoa, today's guest is no stranger to most of us that are over age 30 or maybe 40. However, to all those young coaches just beginning their volleyball career, this man established Nebraska as one of the most decorated programs in the sport of volleyball. So let's head over to Austin, Texas with former Olympic coach Mick Haley, who will introduce our guest today. Mick?
Thank you, Ruth. And it's sure a great pleasure to have Terry Pettit on our show. Terry did marvelous things at Nebraska. He won 21 out of 23 conference championships. He built the program from scratch. That culminated in 1995 with the National NCAA Championship, the first ever for the school in volleyball. And he retired from volleyball in 2005, but he didn't really retire from volleyball. He just quit coaching at Nebraska. He logged a number of great articles, posting them in the AVCA Coaching Journal for 3 or 4 years. I've enjoyed reading those. Then he decided they were so good that he put them into a book, actually 2 books, which I personally enjoy more than anything I've read in volleyball for the long, long time. One was Talent and the Secret Life of Teams. And the second, or maybe not in that order, but a second book that he put out, which I like even more, A Fresh Season, Insights into Coaching, Leadership, and Volleyball. I think that Terry's doing something that many of us didn't do. We got into coaching after we got our degrees, and he's doing a lot with what he got his degree in. Little known is that Terry Pettit is really a Hoosier. He points that out in one of his books, and another Hoosier to do well here. I'm not letting him be from Nebraska right now. He's a Northwest Hoosier, northwestern part of the state. Went to Manchester College, got a degree in English, then went on to do some special work in grad school, I believe at Arkansas, where he had some poetry instruction, a number of other things. And then went to junior college, might not have been called a junior college, but I believe it was a 2-year school in North Carolina, where he was quite successful before taking the Nebraska job. So we've kind of followed him along as much as for his success, as he's another one of our Hoosier people that have really come out and done well for our sport. Terry, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mick. It's a pleasure to be here. And before we began the show, I was talking with Ruth about her introducing blocking fundamental to me in 1974. I also sent Kathy Noth out to watch Brian's practice in 1994 because I felt Long Beach was ball handling better than anybody else. And I wanted to see what they were doing and if we could, she could come back and apply it to our team, and she did. And Brian, like most volleyball coaches, most great volleyball coaches, was very generous in allowing her to do that. Mick, when I first got that job at Nebraska, I went up to Kellogg and sat with you for a couple days. And I think we talked about things as basic as how many volleyballs do you need?
No, we did all of those things. You're absolutely right.
And we'd both been played for Jim Coleman at Kenneth Allen in Chicago, and so it's at that time anyway, and I think during most of my career, volleyball was a very sharing community. I mean, very few people wouldn't allow you to understand what they were doing and why they were doing it, because they understood that even though someone might watch your practice, they weren't you. They couldn't come in and necessarily teach it as well as you taught it. And I certainly enjoyed that aspect of the sport.
Well, you haven't really left the sport, have you? You've stayed involved. You continue to have opinions and ideas about the game. You're not short in offering your opinions, which is really good. We all appreciate it. You know, I read Mike Hebert's books. I read the Utah coach's book. We had her on, Beth Lanier, and I've read both of your books several times, and I find them to, I told Mike that when he was alive. I told Mike that every song, how much I enjoyed. Don't write. Many coaches don't read, which is very, very unfortunate. And I wanted to ask you, and they don't know about your humor, all right? So Pat, you really have a pretty dry sense of humor here, and they need to get a little bit of a feeling of that. But it's my
Hey, Mick, hey, Mick, hold on just a second. Let me interrupt you. Uh-oh, he's having a little difficulty here.
Read the book, either Zen or...
Well, Mick,
Mick, can you hear me, Mick? Hey, Mick, can you come back on again, because you've been breaking up, and let me go to Bob real quick. If you could just come back on, refresh.
Yeah, there's either audio problems or Mick is having a stroke.
Okay, can we go to Bob? Hey,
Terry,
can we go to Bob?
Terry, I was going to tell you, that's not unusual. That's the way Mick talks now. I don't know if you talked to him in a long time.
Mick may need to refresh here. Okay, Bob, let's go to you real quick and let's see.
Okay, sure, Ruth. Hey, Terry, it's great to be on with you. I'm gonna delve into some volleyball things that I'd like you to share with some of the people that are watching. I mean, give us the three most important things for building the program. You build a tremendous program at Nebraska. All right, what do you think are the three most important things for any coach in terms of building the program like you did?
Well, I can list things. I can't say. Well, certainly talent. I mean, you can't go anywhere without talent, and that's evident to us now. But Brian, when I first began coaching, I think most coaches building a program thought about skill more than they thought about talent. And obviously you need both, but Nebraska volleyball was built on recruiting talent over skill. So for example, if we had a choice of recruiting someone that I thought could play at a higher level but wasn't very skilled, that's the decision we made. I think you did that at Long Beach as well. But originally, most people recruited the West Coast, and because that's where the most skilled players were. My thought was, if I recruit the West Coast with a developing program, we're probably going to get the second or third best players, and we're never really going to be competitive against, at that time, USC and UCLA. So I trusted that we could train athletes. And so the ability to recruit athletes, train athletes, and then I think at some point, if you're going to build a successful program, a highly successful program at the college level, you have to recruit your administration to be emotionally engaged with what you're doing. And I was fortunate that the senior women's administrator at Nebraska, Dr. Barbara Hibner, who passed away several years ago, and people like Bill Byrne, who was my athletic director, jumped in. And when I say jumped in, it wasn't necessarily just financially. They cared about whether or not the team developed. They cared whether or not the team was competing for national championships. And I think that those type of things aren't what people think about when they think about coaching. They think, if I'm going to be a volleyball coach, I get to do that stuff they do from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock is what I want to do. But no program rises to the top or rises to one of the top programs in the country unless the head coach is able to woo and develop relationships with custodians, with donors, with the athletic department. And I was fortunate that people responded to those things. But there's also this truth that I couldn't witness as much as I did for opportunities for women and other political things if we didn't win. You can't be provocative unless you win. And Mick mentioned my writing and my humor. My goal, in particular when I write, is not necessarily for some people to adopt my point of view. It's to provoke thinking. It's to get people to think about an issue and come to their own conclusion. Mm-hmm. Bob, thanks for that question.
Yeah, those three things do make a lot of sense. And let's drill down a little bit deeper. 21 out of 23 years, you win a conference championship. So realizing what you just talked about in terms of the scope of developing a program, what made the difference? How did you possibly, any coach would love to have that kind of a record. What set you apart? What do you think you did differently?
Well, I keep coming back to talent. I think my talent, if I had to say what my talent is, I think I can walk into a Costco and watch people walk by and tell you which ones were athletes and maybe even what sports they were in. And it's a game I play. I frequently go up and tap people on their shoulder. And the last one was a young woman. She was about 6'3", narrow hips, broad shoulders. And I said, 400 meters. And she said, yes, how did you know? Well, great athletes move differently. Uh-huh. So I think that's, there's very few people that we recruited who didn't eventually develop into players. And they were better players when they were junior and seniors than they were freshmen. What you can't tell just walking into Costco, you can't tell somebody's mindset. It certainly, we had an advantage when most of us coached, in that when you had home visits, you could, you could watch how a recruit interacted with her family. And if she didn't show respect toward her parents, I knew that she wouldn't respect me or our staff. So there were a lot of times where we just didn't offer somebody because of that interaction. But we're now in a world where people are offered scholarships in junior high, and those kids don't know who they are. They don't know what they want to be. So I feel some of those things were earlier, but everything begins with talent. I think the second thing we did that I think was critical to Nebraska volleyball, at the time that I began coaching, and as we moved into becoming a competitive team, if we did want to recruit people outside the state of Nebraska in the Sounding era, people like Gracia Shapiro or Fiona Nepo or Amber Holmquist, we knew we would be going up against other top teams that were primarily, not entirely, West Coast teams. So what could we provide that they couldn't provide? We couldn't provide an ocean. We couldn't provide a certain lifestyle. What we could provide was a fan experience, a packed stadium with people in it that cared about volleyball. And that didn't happen overnight. The first match I coached against Nebraska was against Drake. My wife and I set up, actually brought pots and pans to cook hot dogs in. The team set up the chairs. There were maybe 30 folding chairs. And I really couldn't focus on creating a fan base at that point, because the next week we were going to Wisconsin on my first road trip, and in a 15-passenger van with 12 players, a manager, and a trainer. And you had to take the volleyballs with you. So all this didn't happen at once, but at some point, it didn't make any difference to me personally, whether we played in front of 100 people or 5,000 people, but it made a difference to the people I was recruiting. So it was really a matter of selling. What can we do so that when Jen McFadden makes her official visit here, and she's visiting other top 10 programs, that's different. And so that was my motivation. And it began by doing everything we could to get people in matches. And so we played a lot of our matches following football games. And if Nebraska lost in football, those people didn't want to go home on that note. They wanted to see somebody win. And then we developed junior programs. We was part of building a Starlings program in Omaha, ran clinics in every town throughout the state. So when people say to me, a lot of coaches do, they'll say, I want to build a Nebraska. Are you willing to do that and not see the results you want for 15 years? That's what impressed me about Craig Skinner. When he won the national championship, I think he'd been at Kentucky for maybe 15 or 17 years. And everybody recognizes he's been a great coach, but it takes that sense of delayed gratification to build something.
Well, that's great, Terry. I mean, those things are real important, I think, especially for young coaches to hear. It's not something that just happens overnight,
Right.
Where you walk into that program and all of a sudden you get all those things. You did talk a little bit about the athlete and recruiting the athlete. Now we have a new breed of athlete. I know you're on top of these kinds of things. What would you have to say for coaches about, the difference in the athletes today as in the past, and what's different and how you would handle, or how maybe you should look at handling these new athletes?
Well, one thing I would handle the same, and that I think in that book, A Fresh Season, there's a chapter called A Letter to Parents. And in that letter, basically, I begin by saying what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to abuse your daughter physically or mentally. And I go through that list. But in the second half of that chapter, I say, this is what I expect from you. At some point, your daughter is going to be confronted by the fact that there's athletes as good or better than her. There's players as good as or better than her. We may ask her to change positions. And so your daughter may want to either transfer or get me fired or whatever. At that point, the parent needs to say, get back to work. And I would do the same thing now. I don't know that I could buy into the making the portal my primary way of recruiting athletes. And I had one athlete transfer out my first year, but that wasn't there. And the most valuable thing a coach has is her time. And if you spent 3 years developing a setter, taking an athlete, training her to be a setter and play at a hard level, it would be heartbreaking to lose that athlete. So I never recruited over the top of people. In other words, we had lots of athletes ask us to transfer in, and I didn't do it because I just felt I owed it to the people that I had recruited. If I made a mistake, it was my mistake. Now, maybe I would find myself in the bottom of the conference if I followed that philosophy today. and it could be. In men's basketball, it's a carnival. It's a merry-go-round. But Bob, I would deal with it like I always dealt with it. I would say, look, you're an investment. You're investing in me. If I see after 2 years that you're never going to get playing time, I'll be honest with you, but I'm not going to force you to push you out the door. And I hope if after 2 years you haven't seen the court, but you're continuing to get better. We had players. Enid Schoenweis never was in a match until her junior year and became an All-American and played for a national championship in 1986. And she was a hurdler and a basketball player. So the loyalty to the program was very strong. I'm not foolish enough to think that it would be as strong today. Christy Johnson didn't start until her 4th year and never lost an away match in her 4th and 5th year. Would a kid like that stick around today? I think the answer is no.
Okay, before I interrupt you, Brian has a question. Bob, you're going to get one of those tags today for taking too much time. Brian, it's your turn. Brian has a question.
Terry, it's nice to see you. I because of time, I won't go into the questions I had. I just wanted to tell you that I really follow you on Facebook, and I appreciate reading what you have to say in all fields. I don't know if it's because I agree with you or because you have something special to say, but everything you said about developing a program, everything you said, I concur with. That's how you have to do it. That's how we all did it. The amount of work you can't think about, you just do. Never recruit over somebody. And the only part of recruiting I ever liked was home visits. And that was the only thing I missed later on. But Terry, I could spend hours with you, and I'm just going to pass it on to Ruth. So it's nice to see you.
Thank you. Thanks,
All right,
Brian.
Terry. All right. So are we now pay to play in juniors? Are we pay to get trained? And my question to you is, what's happened to the philosophy of developing all around players at the young age? And I'm going to let you go with that.
We all know what it is. I once compared club volleyball to Afghanistan. There are warlords, and we were fortunate in Nebraska that when I was coaching, the club coaches were high school coaches. So they'd taken courses in ed psych. They were also the track coach. They encouraged their players to play multiple sports. They weren't isolating them. They understood that rest and recovery are part of the training cycle. I see that far less in people who've gotten into club volleyball as primarily a business venture, but there are some good ones there too. I coached my own daughter, our youngest daughter, in 16s and 17s, because I didn't see anyone locally that I thought could train a setter. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. There were certainly aspects of club. There's no question we all benefit from club volleyball. However, the all-around player, and I witnessed for this for years. I was the first chair of the rules committee, and my goal was to move the subs to 10 and then to 8. And there's reasons for that. What the main thing that people don't understand with the all-around player, if you went to 8 subs in Division I volleyball, the 5'11" outside hitter becomes a primary recruit. That also opens up more tall players for more teams. Everybody thinks if we go to 8 or 10 subs that it only benefits the top teams. But if you train everybody in all around skills and you have 8 subs and passing becomes even more important than it is, then when people go out recruiting, they aren't just looking for size and arm speed. They're looking for somebody that can pass the ball, because now you have to have 2 pin hitters that can play all the way around. I also think that it's how in the world can you know when somebody's in 4th grade whether or not they're going to be a libero or a middle blocker? Virginia Stair, when we recruited her, I thought she was an outside hitter. She grew 2 inches and was a wonderful hit the slide and became a 3-time All-American in the middle. And she passed, and they all passed. We had a rotation in 95 when we run the national championship, the 5th rotation, where our middle attacker dropped back and passed Allison Weston and audible to quick attack. She was one of the better passers. So, I've addressed this by speaking to clubs, and they just ignore me. They just go on and doing what they do.
Okay, so we want all around players, but I know Mick, he went to the store and got ice cream and came back. And I know he still has one question, but Mick, you only have 1 minute because I know how you go. All right, Mick.
Well, I'm sorry, Terry, my internet took hiatus, but I did have one funny question for you. You wrote a chapter on should volleyball coaches be packing more than their information and
it was
little boards there. So what are you talking about with that?
Well, I have political viewpoints, and I was going to write an article for the AVCA, and I haven't gotten to it yet. As coach, when you become a coach, do you give up other things? Do you give up having a political point of view? I certainly witnessed for a lot when I was at Nebraska that were political, but that column, which Kathy kind of held her nose and published it anyway.
Okay, Terry, this is rapid fire. You have 30 seconds.
Well, it was basically on, and maybe it wasn't well done, but the point of view was that the idea that, that handguns and guns are there, that there's so few restrictions on them. And if you're a teacher, imagine going to school and how kids are scared to death, that somebody could come in and do something. I believe I have to witness for that. So I witness for opportunities for women. I witness for opportunities for minorities. I witness for a lot of things, and I just can't turn that off because I was a volleyball coach.
Okay, so we're out of time, Terry. All you guys give your waves and thank yous. I know how you start doing this.
Thanks, Terry.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you
All right.
very much. I appreciate what you do.
Okay,
Terry, I'm going to tell everybody to read those books because you are not only good with your ideas, but you are funny. And yeah,
Mick,
hold
this
them up because they got to buy these books and read them.
Well, Mick, these are for seniors. This is
okay. All right, guys, we're out of time.
they
We're
come
out
in
of
extra
time.
large print.
Okay, book your Master Coaches custom person or virtual clinic today by heading over to volleyballmastercoaches.com. You missed one of our shows? Jump to our Instagram and click on our YouTube channel link. Follow us on Facebook, Volleyball Master Coaches, Instagram, Twitter, VB Master Coaches. A special shout out to our partners, SNA Sports and Baden Sports, and thanks to our content providers, NFHS, JVA, Coaches Insider, and AVCA. Stay on Facebook Live after John closes our show today, as we have 3 coaches that will be sharing their experiences at this past weekend's Master Coaches Championship Skills Series Clinic. Just as a reminder, we will be taking the rest of June off, but we will be back live in July, and we will be looking forward to reporting the events leading up to the Olympics. However, check our Facebook, Volleyball Master Coaches, as we will be updating you weekly on some of our previous shows and clinic content that you will not want to miss. Don't let the buzz and buzz reaction digital partner. Dr. John, we are now to you.
Oh, okay. Smooth transition, Ruth. Smooth transition.
I love it.
Last, was it the last episode of the current season? Winding it all down.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping everybody is getting a chance to have a break like I am, sort of. Still got to do recruiting. Supposed to go recruiting this afternoon. That's going to be interesting. But yeah, if you want to learn some more stuff, go to coachingvb.com, check it out. And also, Terry is also a member of Volleyball Coaching Wizards, so you can go to volleyballcoachingwizards.com and find his interview there. So on with the buzz reaction.
All righty. As John is letting in our guests, for those joining us for Buzz Reaction for the first time, today we have the pleasure of having the Director of Volleyball at Abilene Youth Sports Authority provide us her thoughts on creating her first coaches clinic in a small West Texas town. She is former head coach at Hardin-Simmons University for 13 years, and we welcome Sabrina Bingham, who has become a regular on our show. Welcome, Sabrina.
Hey, it's good to be back.
Hey, Sabrina, it's good to see you again.
All right, we're going to start. Master Coaches have a few questions for you. And Mick, since you are out having ice cream, you get to ask the first question.
Well, I hope my internet doesn't go out again. I'm sitting in my car right now. That's the only place I have internet for some reason. So this is good. But Sabrina, I'm looking behind you. I'm looking through the windows of your absolutely magnificent facility. 8 volleyball courts, 3 rows of chairs all the way around the top, beautiful rooms for coaches meetings, food, other kinds of things. It looks like Abilene is positioned to be a touring spot for club teams as well as other events. Is that true in your mind?
Absolutely. We are a very good centralized area in the state, and people are always coming through Abilene, and just this facility just makes it just to where we can open it up to more club teams, more coaching clinics, anything that people want to do to rent this facility and just make it better for the community.
I think that doing the clinic in your facility last weekend was really a privilege. I really enjoyed your coaches, but you know what was special for me were the Abilene students that participated and helped us. That's the West Texas thing that I've always enjoyed when I was in Texas, and And then back in Texas, those kids were hungry. They absorbed everything. They never got tired. It was always yes, ma'am, or yes, sir, and really made for a very special weekend for all of us.
Yes, these kids around here are really excited to just grow their game, and to have coaches of your caliber come in here. It was just really neat experience to watch them just be a sponge and just eat all of that up and want more. And what you guys brought to them Friday, then seeing them transform on Saturday and even become a better player overnight.
Wow.
Sure fun. Bob, Brian, you want to jump in here with your comments?
Well, I'm going to let it go to Brian and Ruth only because I know once we get off the air, Ruth is going to give me all sorts of heat for taking up
Absolutely.
the whole time
Absolutely. That's
on
going
the
to happen.
last show.
It was really nice meeting you and your staff and how hospitable everyone was when we were there. And your facility is amazing. What I'm hoping for is the surrounding area, the whole surrounding area finds that this is their home and their community. And I hope that they support it and all the volleyball players go to your place. And I think it would be a real benefit for them to make a name for themselves within their own community. And I'm hoping that takes place. But about the clinic, what did you find out that you enjoyed, thought that was the best part of the clinic, or what feedback you got from kids or from other coaches?
I really heard some great feedback about just the technical pieces that you guys brought in for each of just the basic skill pieces. And sometimes the coaches a lot of them just said it was just refreshing to hear just new key terms to maybe help a player really learn the skill well. Maybe not over talking, but just a couple of words, key words that really could benefit them to become a better athlete, whether it's passing, serving, blocking, whatever it was. I think a lot of the coaches picked out some of those key terms that they could take with them to their own practices.
Yeah, let's go to Ruth. Ruth?
Oh, Bob, you know what? I give Bob such a bad time. Bob, you get first because guess why? Because you're younger. You better enjoy that.
Well, Sabrina, being the hostess for the camp, all right, what do you think having the clinic at your facility does for you all?
I think it benefited both the coaches and the players just at a really high level. And just hearing the feedback from this, I know that so many coaches want to bring back multiple coaches next year that maybe didn't get a chance to be here. And the players couldn't wait to have more experience with a clinic like this to learn from your caliber level of coaching. And I just think maybe even down the line, bringing you back is going to make such a benefit to our community and making this an ongoing thing. It's just going to really bump the level of volleyball up in the Abilene and big country area around us.
Well, I know that for all four of us, we were just thoroughly impressed with the facility itself, all right, as well as the kids that came and worked with us to demonstrate for the coaches, the different skills and the different systems. But it is an absolutely gorgeous facility, and like Brian and Mick had mentioned, it really needs to be a central point for a lot of volleyball activity. I know that there's been some discussions already about having some boys out there and doing some boys volleyball, and I'm excited for you that might be another opportunity for kids in the area. Mick, do you or Ruth have anything else you'd like to ask?
Don't you bypass me or I will never come back to you for sure. Yes, I do. All right, Sabrina, think of this. First of all, the barbecue was great. The music was so loud at dinner, but I'm going to tell you, I was about to get up and do a little two-step when Bob's never done a two-step in his life. But I'm thinking of, here we are in a small West Texas town. You bring this event, which is huge. What made you think you could pull this off? Because you obviously pulled it off in a first-class manner.
When I took over this position last year, one of my goals is to just always go as big as I can. The worst thing that could have happened is you guys said, no, we can't come. And to me, it's always going to be worth the risk to just ask, just step out there big and see if people will come in and share their expertise with us. And that's what I want. That's not just coaching clinics, but even beyond, big tournaments, bringing in boys volleyball, just making volleyball a big part of this community that people want to come to. I want Austin and Dallas, and I want them to come to Abilene and know that they're going to get a great experience of volleyball anytime that they're here. And so I think I just wanted to be bold and just try.
Well, it's surely paid off, because I think because you've been a college coach, and when you're a college coach, you never want to put limits on yourself.
Right.
And I think that this really kind of gathers up the cavalry in the whole area, anywhere from 100 to 150 mile radius. You had people all the way from Oklahoma come in.
Yes, we did.
Why do you think they drove that far?
I think a lot of them had been shut in the whole year, and they were ready to experience on-court instruction that they just hadn't been able to do for over a year. And you get so much out of just being on court with other players and strong coaches. And they knew that, and they wanted to have that experience back.
Well, I can't not ask the question, and Mick is really, he's chomping to ask a question. But this question is, what did the coaches think of the BYOP families that demonstrated after one 30-minute session on Friday night?
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. I have heard great feedback of the families just saying, my daughter had more confidence. Just even going into the second day, there was just a confidence builder. And of course, the other coaches watching them just thought they were the greatest thing, and that they love knowing that volleyball skills can be taught at the youngest of age levels. And that's something that we haven't had a chance to do that much in Abilene, but we are really looking forward to start at those younger ages to really make volleyball grow in this community.
Well, I know for me, thank you very much, because I know that you know as well as I do, if you don't start young, you're not going to be able to keep those players, because what you've had in your area, because you also have club that's in your facility, to keep those good players from traveling to Big D,
Right.
it's a question of building loyalty. It's like Mick, when Mick was at Texas, hey, everybody in Texas wanted to go to Texas. So it's almost built in when they're young, and they probably will stay, and you'll have successful programs. All right, Mick, you have time for one last question before we bring on our two other coaches.
Well, I was wondering, Sabrina, if there was one area that the coaches thought was particularly helpful. We did 14 25-minute presentations, including 6 major skill presentations, and then we tried to tie them together with some drills and some other things. Did the coaches indicate to you there was any one area that they were particularly excited about or was new and different for them?
The ones that I heard a lot about was, there was actually 3 areas. And the serve receive passing, there was some key things that they picked up on that. But then your blocking session, Mick, they really loved learning about that, and just getting those shoulders back around and making sure they're not swinging past. And then the other area was when Brian was talking, making the coaches stand up and go through all the different setting and making sure they knew how to do it correctly. So those were.
Yeah, I think that's important that the coaches get involved physically. We didn't really get them out on the court, but sometimes in our clinics we do activate the coaches a bit, because they don't have to be able to do the skills, but they have to be able to look like they know how to do them. So
Right.
being able to stand and represent a proper passing form or a setting form, or to show the footwork for an attack, just walking through, those are coaches' skills. and provide the learner a chance to look and see and double check what she or he is doing. So that's good. Well, that's exciting for us. Looks like we made a little bit of a difference anyway.
For sure, a
All
big
right.
difference.
So Sabrina, let's have you introduce our two featured guests that attended our recent coaches clinic.
Yes. First off, we have Amy Eckhoff, and she is the head coach of Holly High School, which is just outside of town. So she's not even right in Abilene, but she was coming from just outside of town to get as much as she could from you guys. And then we also have David Slater, who has been a local club coach for our Key City Volleyball Club here in Abilene.
Okay, Master Coaches, your questions for our two guests.
Are our guests on?
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
they
Oh, I
are.
see Amy now, and I got Dave's name up there. Okay.
Is David there?
Yep,
Yeah,
he's here.
Okay.
All right, Brian, you're up first.
Well, just what did you like, either one of you? What would you like us to do in the future? What can you take away from what you learned? General impressions.
I would have to say for myself, it was definitely the way you broke down the skills, kind of talked about the technical side of each skill. You guys also had mentioned that, you know, a lot of times we have just some athletic players, and at some point they plateau and they get to that point where they're just not going to get any better. So that's where it's so important to take the skill, look at the technical side of things, about, you know, breaking it down so that the kids can be more efficient in executing the skills. So that's what I really, really liked about each of the presentations. One of the presentations that I benefit probably the most out of was the blocking. That is something that I feel as a whole with my athletic program, my volleyball program, was definitely a point where we needed to improve in. And so definitely took away lots of pointers, lots of good things that I'm going to incorporate into my summer training before our season gets started in August.
Wow, that's great.
David, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with her. The technical skills and the way you guys are able to communicate with all the other players was just awesome to be able to see that. It really helped us out to do some better communication with our players as well. The explanations you guys.
Then switching back and forth during the day, and then we can answer questions a bit easier and get those questions answered while we're there.
Right.
Especially since the players that we were afforded to be our demonstrators were such quick learners. I mean, those kids picked up the concepts so fast, and a couple of them were unbelievably athletic. It was really fun to have a chance to work with them, and you always like to be appreciated, but these kids just soaked up everything. So I agree with you. I think the next level is to do a little X and O, come back out on the court, work on drill construction, maybe some systems work, talk about philosophy of, we had some questions about 5-1, 4-2, 6-2 kinds of things. We could do basically a coaching clinic that we do overseas and sometimes in the country to certify coaches so that they're skilled in all of the areas.
Yeah, I think you
all
said
of you
something. I'm sorry.
You know, you've run a class yourself, and I know Ruth has done certifications. Bob used to do certifications, so yeah, that's pretty good.
I think the really important thing that you said is that you've got to be able to show a skill. Doesn't mean you have to do the skill.
Yes.
So I think it's really important to coaches out there, you know, showing how to do something. And then we could get right down to how you correct someone with a skill, you know, because they're going to be faced with players and how do you correct that? And how do you correct it quickly and what you do. So my brain went where yours went. I could have been in the car with you,
How do our two guests react to that?
Yeah.
Do you folks have any of the same thoughts, or would you go a different direction?
No, I think that would be amazing. There's so many coaches, like I said, that it would just be helpful for your beginner coaches that are just starting out, and as well as the coaches that have some experience behind them. You're constantly learning, you're constantly seeing different points of view, different perspectives on the game. I personally think that would be awesome to spend some time, like you said, on the X's and O's, and then getting back out on the court with the live demonstrations. And I have to say, for me personally, once kind of getting past the being starstruck of having 4 such great coaches and successful coaches being so close in our area. I have a few years of coaching behind me, and you still, no matter what, I still walked away. I felt with such a growth of the game, the knowledge of the game from the clinic. So I'm really excited about whatever you guys bring back to us next year.
How about David?
Yeah, being able to quickly correct a lot of those techniques. I think what we see a lot of is a lot of the same mistakes made by players, and not just the young ones, but all ages, because they've carried those bad habits all the way through. So showing us how to correct that and correct it as quickly as possible would be extremely helpful. And I think the round robin thing, having us in classes, would be very, very helpful as well.
Okay, so I've got a question for you. What do you think of our upcoming Zoom call we're going to be doing on Monday?
I love it. I'll be there.
And you think it's a great idea? It's a great way to follow up?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I know I've done a lot of staying up with the art of coaching, which is something I've done for years. And this, the interaction that we have with you guys, the podcast, I think it is exceptional compared to that.
All right. So that's great. And Bob, you had a couple questions.
Well, I wanted to ask David about what the feedback was from the athletes, because they were really a pleasure to work with. And like you said, Key City Volleyball was pretty well represented there. So we thank you for them, and hopefully they felt good about their experience.
Yeah, they were. I only were able to, I talked to 2 of them. My team wasn't there. They were 4 teams. I did talk to 2 of the players afterwards that I know really well, and they were really excited. They really enjoyed it, and they learned a lot when it came to a lot of the technicals. So they almost felt a little overwhelmed, which was actually not a bad thing, because so did I. There was a lot of information in a short amount of time. Because you guys did such a fantastic job of covering a ton of information for us.
Well, thank you. Amy, did you have a chance to evaluate how you thought the kids improved from Friday night throughout the whole day on Saturday? Do you have any feedback about that?
I did. I personally didn't have any girls there, but I was there on Friday evening as you guys were teaching the young athletes the demonstrations, and you could see how they were, again, kind of going back to that sponge reference. They're just taking it all in. And there was a lot of what was shown to athletes on Friday that they were able to carry over and make those changes and execute on Saturday. I think the direction from the coaches was done very well. It was done in a way that the kids could understand it. So yeah, absolutely.
Good.
Okay, I had one other question, and that was for Amy and David. What does it mean to both of you, not only your programs, but also your teams, and for you, Amy, in school, to have Sabrina there with so much college experience? And she's now back right there in your backyard, and you can touch her. It's not like you can't see her. How important is it for you to have somebody in a small West Texas town where she wants to build this program, but she knows she can't do it without people like you and the players? Amy, let's go to you first.
Okay, well, I think we're very blessed that that Sabrina's in the position that she's in. She to have her there to ask questions. She's so easy to talk to. She's very approachable. The things that she's trying to bring to West Texas and our community, the surrounding areas. Volleyball is just it's gonna get really, really good out here in West Texas around Abilene. The leagues that she's running right now that the girls are able to participate in, the skills sessions that AYSA hosts. I know personally I've had some kiddos that have been a part of that, and they have come away from that much better, of course, than when they went in. There's developmental leagues that they host as well. So, I mean, like I said, volleyball is just it's gonna get really, really good here in West Texas around Abilene.
Well, I have to say that I think it's always been pretty darn good, and it means it's going to get even better. And David, how about you?
Oh yeah, definitely having her here has been awesome. I just got.
Better be nice. She's your boss.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. That's right. No, we love having her out here and her having that big vision. I moved down here from Kansas City, from the Kansas City area about a year ago. I love Texas, love West Texas. And she's got that big vision to see how big this can be and how big it's going to be. And she's going to be able to help us to grow that out here, which will be just wonderful.
All right, fantastic. Mick, you got a few more things because we have about 1 minute left.
No, I just wanted to thank the coaches and have them reiterate to their players how much we appreciated the way they sucked in all of the information. I mean, they had questions about everything. I felt like I had, really not much left in that evening driving home, because I had questions just about everything you could possibly ask about. And that was just the skills part of the clinic. But we really feel like doing these clinics and getting the coaches really well skilled in teaching the skills and the movement patterns correctly lends us to going on to the next few steps in coach development and player development. So from my standpoint, I just wanted to thank the coaches and Sabrina for inviting us out, allowing us to have access to their athletes who were really fun, and getting to know the coaches who were really excited about the information.
Okay, well, guess what? We're out of time. It seems like we always run out of time. And thanks for joining us today for our Buzz Reaction. We thank our guests for providing great insight into our sport for all of our viewers. For those coaches that are interested in our consulting services, please email from our link on our VB MasterCoaches Instagram, or go directly to our website at volleyballmastercoaches.com. Be sure to tell your friends about our weekly news show. And guess what? We will not be going live until July, but don't forget to stop in every Wednesday as we will have updates. And thank you again for joining us today, and see you on the Buzz.